This is part one of our series, and we're going to go through Joe Biden's speeches and actions and highlight how he is showing the signs of dementia. Now, just right off the bat, I'm not a medical doctor. I do not have a license to diagnose anyone. This is just me as a layperson and someone who has gone through and had to experience family members suffering from dementia. Me just giving my impression, having lived through those experiences, and explaining what I see when I see Joe Biden's gaffes. Now, when you say Joe Biden's gaffes, a lot of times people think, oh, it's just quirky Joe. If you go back 5, 10, 20 years ago, Joe Biden's gaffes weren't these crazy things that we're seeing today. His gaffes were when he would make off-color remarks, or even worse, when he would make remarks on color, right? Today, though, Joe Biden's gaffes aren't that. It's not politically incorrect Joe. The gaffes today, it's actually getting depressing because he's showing very clear signs of dementia, of mental decline. So this series of videos, we're going to go down the list and show how Joe Biden is exhibiting these symptoms. So just right off the bat, this is one of the things that we're going to go off of. This is from the Alzheimer's Disease International, but there's lots of organizations that have charts like this. Typically, these are the 10 signs, the 10 symptoms of warning signs of dementia. So we're going to go through these. Now, with some of them, it's going to be hard because Joe Biden doesn't let us see his personal life all that much. And with how much coaching he has when he goes on stage, it's going to be hard to cover all of these, right? But we can, even with all of the coaching, even with the teleprompter, he is exhibiting signs of these symptoms. So today, we're actually going to start with disorientation to time and place. Now, if anyone's been watching Joe Biden just over the past year, it's very clear that in his public remarks, he has a hard time remembering where he is, and he's having a hard time remembering when he is. So there were tons of clips that we could have used. We pulled a couple of clips for space and time just to show that these warning signs are definitely there. So we're going to start with this clip. This is Joe Biden thinking that he's in Vermont when he's actually in New Hampshire.
Of Keene.
I'm back. I've been here a number of times. Last time was, I think, all the way back in 2014, but I've been here before that. I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town. I mean, this is sort of a scenic, beautiful town. The mayor's been a good guy, and everybody's been really friendly. I like Keene a lot.
So Joe Biden was campaigning in the first primary in the nation, which is New Hampshire. Vermont's primary doesn't happen until weeks later. And yet Joe Biden believed he was in Vermont, even though the only state he would really make sense to be in at the time was New Hampshire. Now here is a clip of Joe Biden thinking he's in Iowa instead of New Hampshire.
Primary race for the United States presidency. You have an incredible obligation, not to me at all, to yourselves. Because what you do here in Iowa, what they do in Iowa, what you do here in a primary in New Hampshire, is going to set the tone.
So he catches himself, but that's just an example of Joe Biden thinking he's in Iowa instead of New Hampshire. And now, just to round this out, here's a clip of Joe Biden thinking he's in Ohio instead of Iowa.
And so there's three things we got to do. We have to move immediately back to reestablish all those standards we had to begin with when we left office and significantly add to them. And the way you do that is, for example, you are in the state of Ohio, the state of Iowa, like they're trying to do in the state of Ohio. Is that what you...
So is this fair? I mean, with someone traveling as much as Joe Biden was traveling, it's more than fair to get mistaken with these things every now and then. But what I just showed you was 3 of many clips that we have from just a couple weeks on the campaign trail. Everywhere Joe went, he seemed to forget where he was, which is very troubling. And Donald Trump didn't let him live this down. Here's how Trump explained it during one of his rallies.
Tomorrow, voters in states across the nation will head to the polls for Super Tuesday, not Super Thursday. Oh, he said, Super Thursday, you can't do these things. Can you imagine if I said Super Thursday? It would be over, right? It would be over. No matter how good you are, certain things you can't, as an example, name like Sleepy Joe. He's constantly naming the wrong state. It's great to be in the state of Ohio. No, I'm sorry, you're in North Carolina. No. Joe, do you ever see him run up with a sign? No, North Carolina, Joe. Once that happens, you might as well leave the stage because it's a disaster no matter how good it is. We're in North Carolina. It's great to be in Idaho. No, you're in Iowa. No, he makes a lot of those mistakes. They're a little scary. Did you see guns? You know, we're going to protect your Second Amendment. You understand that? But did you see Sleepy Joe? Did you see Sleepy Joe where he said last year 150 million people were killed by guns in our country? 150 million! That means 50% of our country. That's a big story. Man. Now, 150. Could you imagine Trump saying that? These people would never let me live it down. We can't make even a little mistake, right? We can't make even a little tiny mistake. If we make a tiny mistake, it's headline news. They say things like 150 million people killed, guns. They say Super Thursday. They say Georgia. He's looking forward to winning Georgia tomorrow. Georgia's not in Super Tuesday. So many mistakes.
So Trump's hitting on a couple things. Obviously, he mentions the fact that Joe Biden can't seem to remember where he is, which is obviously fair game in a political campaign. Trump also mentions the fact that Joe Biden thought it was Super Thursday instead of Super Tuesday. A nice little segue into this clip.
Look, tomorrow's Super Tuesday, and I want to thank you all. I tell you what, I'm rushing ahead, aren't I?
So it's fair. We all forget the day of the week sometimes. But when you're a politician, Super Tuesday isn't just a day of the week. It's a date on the calendar with a bright red circle around it. Every politician knows what Super Tuesday is. It's the biggest day of the primary campaign for delegates. So for Joe Biden to forget Super Tuesday is a horrible, horrible sign, right? It'd be like a baseball player forgetting home run. You can't run for president without knowing what Super Tuesday is. But it also shows that Joe Biden probably in this clip doesn't know what day of the week it is. He probably thinks it's Wednesday. The only reason you call it Super Thursday, no one has ever used the phrase Super Thursday. There's no such thing as Super Thursday. For him to call it Super Thursday, he thought that was Wednesday. He thought he was giving this speech on Wednesday. He knew that the election was the following day, so that must make it Super Thursday. Very, very, very concerning. But that's not it. That's not the only clip we have showing that Joe Biden's having a hard time remembering what year it is. Here's a clip of Joe Biden claiming that the Parkland shooting survivors came up to him in D.C.
I watched what happened when the kids from Parkland marched up to, and I met with them, and then they went off to up on the hill when I was vice president. They went off the hill to go into those neighborhoods. All those congressmen were like, "No, I'm not here. I'm not here. Don't tell them I'm around."
So Joe Biden was not vice president when the Parkland shooting happened. So they never could have come to see him in Washington, D.C. And that whole story of other people in Congress trying to run away from them, he made it up, right? Politicians make things up all the time. But that invented story is based itself on a falsehood. They claim that he was in office at the time of the Parkland shooting. It's provably false. Absolutely false. So for him to think that is a very, very bad sign. So this next clip is Joe Biden confusing the year 1918 with 2018 and starting to say that he was alive and campaigning for other candidates in 1918.
Georgia, Florida, even in Texas, but I'm going to spend my life campaigning for other Democrats. In 2018, I campaigned for in 24 states for over 65 candidates.
So I'm not really sure what that was all about. Joe Biden was not campaigning for other Democrats back in 1918. But this next clip is probably the most concerning of all. It's a clip of Joe Biden reverting back to his previous job as a senator and on the presidential campaign trail, going up to the podium and saying that he is running for Senate.
South Carolina is going to determine who the next president of the United States is going to be. You really are. You're the ones that sent Bill Clinton to the presidency, and you're the ones that sent Barack Obama to the presidency. And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other guy. Give me a look, though, okay?
So this one to me is the most striking, because anyone who's had a family member who suffered from Alzheimer's or dementia knows that one of the earliest signs is that they forget what year it is. Not just that if you gave them a calendar, they wouldn't be able to tell you it's 2020 or 2019. They actually start believing that at that very moment, they are living in a different year. So when they see a loved one, they'll think that that loved one has a different job or goes to a different school, right? They might think that their wife or husband is still alive when in fact they've long since passed away. They'll think that they still have their old job because that's what they did in whatever year they think it is. So to see Joe Biden during a presidential campaign go up to the podium and say that he's running for the Senate, it creates a lot of questions. So to see Joe Biden go up to the podium during a presidential campaign and proclaim that he's running for the Senate, to me, having experienced family members who've gone through this disease, I see those same symptoms. I see a man who thinks it's a different year, is up at the podium and is just going with it. That, oh, I'm running for the Senate. This is me. I'm Senator Joe Biden. Very, very concerning. And of course, Donald Trump won't let him live this down either.
There's not a lot of enthusiasm for Biden. I thought he gave up the presidency the other day because he said he's running for the Senate. I looked at the First Lady. I said, hey, he's running for the Senate. And today he just said, Super Thursday. He's looking forward to Super Thursday.
So obviously, Trump's making fun, and it's very comical when you hear it in this context. But one thing that we want to differentiate with this series of videos is, as funny as this sounds, these are symptoms of serious mental decline. We're going to go down the list of all the warning signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. And I want to show that these aren't just laughing at Joe Biden. This isn't just, oh, Joe Biden with another funny gaffe. This man wants to be president of the United States. Now, if you ran Joe Biden from 20 years ago, it'd be a completely different man, right? We wouldn't be having this conversation. But today's Joe Biden is not the Joe Biden of the early 2000s. He just isn't. He's in serious mental decline. So obviously, when you see him say these things, it's very funny, and you can laugh, you can chuckle, but realize that this is a disease that Joe Biden likely has. And considering the fact that he wants to become leader of the free world, it's something that we need to talk about. So please do like this video. Please do comment. Please do share it. We want to get this in front of more people because more people really need to see what's going on. So please do like, comment, and share. It will really help as we try and spread this video to more people. Thanks.